another car video. What else is new? So today is gonna be a little bit of a different video. The title of this is What Went Wrong in My First Relationship. You know, I could spend an eternity talking about this in detail, but I won't. I'm just gonna kind of touch on some of the basic things that I saw that were issues, things that I wish I would have known earlier on. So without further ado, let's just get started on that. Alright, so I went to a small high school. A lot of you guys know that, which is where we met, became friends, and we were actually really good friends, like best friends before we started dating. For probably about 6 months or so. We were in theater together and stuff, so we spent quite a bit of time outside of class together, and he was a grade ahead of me, so we didn't really have classes together, but we did spend a lot of time together, and of course we had a lot of mutual friends. We still do, but at the time, you know, that was like our whole life because high school kind of consumes you. It was a crazy journey, to say the least. I don't even know where I'm gonna start. So summer of 2013, we started dating. It was the summer before my junior year and his senior year. So I knew that it was like our last year of school together. I wasn't quite sure how the whole college thing was gonna work out, or if it was even gonna be like a real serious relationship. Like at the time I just didn't care, right? Because I was 15 years old and he was 17, and I just, you know, it just didn't really matter too much to me because I wasn't thinking about it in the sense of like, oh, is this really who I'm supposed to be with, or someone that God would want me to pursue. I just kind of thought of it as like, oh, you know, he's cute and we get along and he's funny and he's nice to me and, you know, gives me rides home from school. Don't do that. I mean, not that you can't be selfish, but like you really have to just, you can't just consider yourself. Like if you're a Christian, like you can't just go pursuing whoever you want because they're cute. You know, when you're young, boys are just immature. And we turned out to be like one of the most favorite couples from our town. Like everyone was rooting for us. I'd like to think that last year of school together, you know, we were just kind of, we were it. Like people looked up to us. People were like, oh, goals, you know. Like I went to all the football games and basketball games and all of the last senior things that he had going on. He came to all my performances, this and that. We got to know each other's families really well. Homecoming, prom, like the whole 9 yards. Theater, of course. And then the next year, you know, was the first year out of high school for him, and I was a senior, but we made it work because he went to community college, still worked in town and everything, so he didn't go away. Regardless of college and all of the things that are to come after high school, that just didn't really faze us because we were so serious at that point. So needless to say, it wasn't just some little high school fling. The first like two and a half years, it was, I don't want to say easy, but it was pretty good. It never really felt like hard work, like we weren't making some big sacrifice to be together or something. It came pretty natural and pretty easy. Well, my first year of college, around the second semester, it got a little bit rough. I started to wonder about other people and if I would rather be single because I felt like I was really just starting to discover who I was, and like I didn't want to be held back, but at the same time, you know, I really loved him, and so I was just torn between like, do I say something or is this just a phase that I'm going through that's not worth splitting us up right now? I was only, gosh, 18 at this time, I guess. He was 19. Still trying to figure out where to transfer for school and what he wanted to do because he changed his major a couple times. So it was very up and down. We had a little bit of a rough patch then, and we ended up we were in this wedding together, some of our best friends, and right after that we took like a couple month break just to kind of see how I would feel, see if that feeling that I was feeling was really real or if it was just like, you know, something I was going through, like a phase. Anyways, we got back together. It worked out. That was in May of 2016, and we were together all the way up until February of last year. So almost around 4-ish years that we dated, give or take. That's a long time to spend with someone who you think that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Sometimes I don't think that we took each other seriously. Even though we were in a serious relationship, I don't think that we always took each other seriously. Towards the end of that year is when things just kind of got rough because right after we got back together in the summer, we joined a business together, and I'm not saying that was a mistake by any means. It just created a little bit of tension because, you know, businesses can open up opportunities for you as an individual. And because we weren't married and because we had just hit a rocky patch, I was stuck in this place again of like, well, if he wants to seriously do this, like, I don't want to hold him back. So, you know, the year went on and things progressed with the business and we started traveling a little bit together, taking some trips and whatnot, and that was great. I loved every minute of it. But at the same time, it did start to cause us to drift apart a little bit. I had just moved into my first apartment, my second year at Collin, and I was on my own. Not completely, but, you know, for the first time I was away from home by myself and trying to figure out my life, what I was going to do after I was done at Collin, where I was going to transfer to, what my potential plans would be after college entirely, and what I was trying to work towards. You know, he was my rock, but I think I needed him too much. And I started to sometimes depend on him the way that I should depend on God. And that's just not healthy. You should never rely on a person for your happiness. Because people let you down. Like, that's just human nature, is that people will fail you. I mean, I kind of lost myself because I was so busy attending to us that I never really had any me time. Like, any free time that we had, we spent it together, right? And so there just wasn't a whole lot of, like, time to focus on myself. I feel like I kind of just fell away from God at times, not all the time, but, you know, and that probably would have happened either way. I'm not saying that was because of him, but I'm just saying, like, there were times where we weren't doing well, and I just felt like I needed to turn to God, and I didn't feel close to him. Anyway, around Christmas 2016 is when all of the breakup nonsense started, and the sad thing is, as much as it hurt me, like, I even saw it coming. And I almost did it first, actually. Long story short, he just started making a bunch of big life changes without including me. And it's not that I think he needed my permission, but normally when you've been with somebody for years like that, you know, the person that I knew him to be was somebody that would come and talk to me about it, somebody that would ask my opinion and say, you know, what do you think about this? And, you know, I'm considering doing this. But instead it was just like, oh, hey, by the way, I did these things. And I just felt so unincluded, like I was kind of on the back burner, you know? And after a while, I was just like, well, geez, am I the next to go? You know, sure enough, we didn't last much longer after that. So right at the beginning of 2017, everything just fell apart. It really did. And I feel like a lot of it was my attitude, just because I already had a weird feeling, so I was feeding that negativity. I think we both just noticed and picked up on what was going on, that we were going in different directions and that things were getting harder. But instead of, like, talking about it like adults, and instead of continuing to put in effort and maybe, you know, pick up the slack for the other person, because it's not always 50-50. Well, I don't even want to say it should be 50-50. Both people got to give 110% for it to work. But maybe you have to give 120 some days. You know, it's a give and take thing. And I don't mean like you should expect them to fail all the time, because you should constantly be building each other up. The whole idea in the Bible of, like, iron sharpening iron, you should be that way with your significant other, like constantly building them up. If you're with somebody who always tears you down and who makes you feel bad about yourself and who makes you question whether or not you could be doing more things and you have all this potential you're not using because of them, you got to get out of that. Because, and I'm not saying that that's how we were, but towards the end, I wondered if we were holding each other back. I think we both knew that we were having those thoughts about each other. We were questioning, like, you know, what about when I go off to school and how's that going to work? And that ended up not even being the reason we broke up. So I would never say that you shouldn't date someone because of school or distance. Like, if you really, truly care about them, the distance isn't going to be a problem, because that's such a small period of your life in the big picture. In the grand scheme of things, like, school lasts this long. Distance should never be like a make it or break it thing, is what I'm saying. Anyways, that's another video. Instead of talking about our problems and the things that were just piling up, like, in our hearts, like, we just completely ignored them. And I was going through some family struggles too. And I think I was just becoming mentally stressed out because of the way that things were going in my life. I was just in this place of uncertainty, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. And I just wish that we would have talked about it. I wish that we would have communicated better. You know, like, I'm a huge advocate of, like, you got to do that and do it correctly, or you're never going to have a successful relationship. Like, somebody who is emotionally unavailable, or somebody who is not willing to attest to your needs, or you know, compromise a little bit. Like, it really is about give and take, and you have to meet people in the middle. You can't just expect them, you can't be over here and they're over here and you are expecting them to just come to you all the time. Like, sometimes you got to go here, and it might not always be right in the middle. Like I said earlier about giving, you know, effort and stuff. Like, sometimes maybe you can only come here and they'll meet you here, and then the next time it's reversed, you know. But I just felt like when we were here, we just stayed here. So all this stuff just kept happening that was making it worse and building up, and we just never sat down and talked about it. And I kept reaching out to other people about it, asking for, you know, advice and seeking out the opinions of others. We had a big trip. I had dance auditions. You know, I had performances. Like, there was so much going on. I kept waiting for the right time. But in a situation like that, there just is not one. And so I let it go too long. There was just this one day we had got off the phone, and I just knew that it was time. It was the day. And I was so angry because I didn't want it to end. I didn't want to start over. I was comfortable. You know, I had spent almost 4 years working towards that, investing in somebody who I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I was like, I'm about to lose that because I'm an idiot and didn't just communicate the way that I should have. You know, had we just communicated properly and not been so stupid and selfish in that small amount of time, I could almost guarantee you that we'd probably still be together right now. When you're with somebody and you have such a deep love and care for them, you can't always see the whole picture. In some ways, I think that I had a very convoluted image of him. It just wasn't healthy because it felt like rather than working at our relationship, we were fighting to make it work. Anything that you do that's worth doing, you're gonna have to give it some effort. That's just life. But we were working so hard, and it still wasn't good, that it was just like this constant battle of fighting and not getting anywhere. And time is the great healer, right, is what they say. And I'm a big believer of that. But if you're not doing the proper things that you need to do during that time, like, nothing's gonna change. It's just like putting something in the microwave. Let's say that you have to cook macaroni for 3 minutes, right? So that 3 minutes can go by, but if you haven't turned on the heat, then it's gonna be the same when you take it out 3 minutes later, if you don't actually press the button and apply what needs to be done, right, during those 3 minutes. So it's the same principle with us. We let the time go by, but we didn't talk, we didn't discuss things, we didn't put in any effort to move forward because we just pretended there weren't any problems. We started fighting more about stupid things and about the same things over and over again, and so that was a red flag. You know, we hadn't dated anyone else, and so we weren't sure. Sometimes, you know, you have to be away from somebody, like, for real, be away from them to really know if they're your person or not. That is the telltale sign of whether or not you're really meant to be with them, I think, is the time that you're away and how you handle that and how mature you are about it, and, you know, what happens during that time and how you feel and all of that. A bunch of different things, along with prayer and seeking out God. Yeah, okay, there were just some trust issues that we had, and I unfortunately found out that I was cheated on years ago, by the way, and now he's dating one of my ex-good friends from college. Sometimes life just doesn't turn out how you think, and rather than being negative and angry about it, you just have to figure out how to make the most of it, because really all you can do in life is just, you know, play best with the cards that you're dealt. Things that you can't change, you shouldn't try to change. People that you can't change, you shouldn't try to change, which is literally everyone except for yourself. You are the only person that you can change. And sometimes even that's hard enough, right? So why do we even try to change other people? Like, that's just not worth it. It's not practical. I mean, I just kind of harped on him, you know, but he was a great boyfriend. Like, most of the relationship, he was wonderful. He was sweet to me, kind, loving, caring, put in effort, communicated with me every day. Not always, you know, perfectly, but he did. And he came to see me randomly and surprised me and went out of his way to show me little signs of gratitude and wrote me letters and, you know, always got me the greatest Christmas and birthday gifts and spoiled me when he could and, you know, cheered me up with food or Starbucks or, like, just really made me feel like I was a special person. I'm not saying that it's all about the gifts or the text messages, because it's not, but it's just about the effort. So however you can show that to your person, like whoever it is that you're with, you have to figure out like what their love language is and cater to it. So like for me, mine is quality time. I mean, yeah, you could talk to somebody every day, but if you don't ever spend time with them, like, that's not a relationship to me. You get to know somebody when it's just you and them spending quality time together. Like, that's when somebody is really who they really are. Like, usually. But when we weren't together, you know, he still made the effort to talk to me and make sure that I was okay. And, you know, you want the kind of person who's gonna wait until you walk in the door, or make sure that they know you're home safe and comes to your performances and supports you in what you do, and makes it known that they're there for you during hard times and is your shoulder to cry on. And because at the end of the day, like, we all just really want to be loved and cared for, right? So he did a great job of that while we were dating. But once we broke up, it was a different story. I mean, there's no good time to be broken up with, but it was probably the worst possible time in the semester that he could have done it. He just immediately tried to start being my friend. Like, sometimes even still talking to me the same way that he would before. He just kept reaching out, and it was just like inviting all these old feelings in, and it was just hurting me, and I'm sure it was hurting him too, because it's just like, you know, we couldn't let go for a while, and it caused just some confusion and unnecessary drama, lots of mental damage. I hope this video helped bring some light to those of you who, number one, know me and were wondering what was going on, but number two, you're about to be in a relationship, or maybe you're in your first one, or maybe you just got out of your first one, and maybe it wasn't even long term, but you're just wondering, like, what can I do in the future to be better in moving forward and like the people that I date next. The first and foremost thing you gotta do is trust the person. If you don't trust the person, why are you dating them? Why would you date someone if you don't trust them? And trust takes time to build, you know? Some people say that, like, you should trust people until they give you a reason not to. But the society that we live in today, people are so sketchy. Like, I feel like it's kind of guilty until proven innocent, because you really got to get to know somebody. People could act like you could trust them, but then you just never know. So I feel like people have to prove to you that they're trustworthy. I mean, don't just immediately assume everyone is like a pathological liar, but, you know, be cautious with people, because especially if you have a tender heart like me and you're sensitive, like, that can really mess you up. That's the first thing I'd say. But also, communication. You have to communicate with people, especially somebody that you're dating. Like, you know, you just should be really clear about your expectations, and, you know, have maybe some sort of schedule, so that it doesn't become this thing of like, hey, like, we didn't talk today, or like, why didn't you do this? Oh, I was busy. Well, why didn't you just tell me that you were busy? You know, because some people would rather hear like, hey, I'm gonna be busy for the day, I'll talk to you later, rather than just being ignored all day, and then that person is left thinking that, you know, maybe they were just mad at them, or they just ignored them, or whatever. Like, that's happened to me before. That happened with us plenty of times. We were dating, and the whole time it was just because he was at work, or I was in rehearsal, or, you know, but because we didn't let each other know, you know. So that's a small example, but if you do that long enough, it will add up, I promise. So just communicate properly, figure out what that means to you and your person. Keep it consistent. Inconsistency is so unattractive. Oh my gosh, like, if you're throwing shade and going back and forth about that stuff, it's just not good. And I would just say words of affirmation as well, because life gets hard, and if you're dating somebody, they should be, you know, somebody that supports you, somebody that's there for you, to lift you up, somebody that you can go to in a time of need, to talk about things. So just be an open, honest person. Be a listening ear for your partner, because, you know, they're gonna need you to tell them sometimes that they're a good person, or that they're not stupid just because they failed that test one day. They're just gonna need you to be strong when they can't always be strong, and they're gonna be strong for you when you can't always be strong. And like I said, it's just a give and take. So just understanding that balance and, you know, moving forward with that. I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm gonna go. I hope that it was beneficial in some way. Anyways, hope you guys have a great weekend. By the time you watch this, it probably won't be the weekend. Continue watching out, keeping an eye out for the vlogs, because I drop them every Sunday. And if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you later.